What's up, guys? Faruqi Bros here, back with another podcast. And today, for you guys, we'll be talking about the newest DC release from Warner Brothers, and that's Joker 2. Joker Folie, Deux, if you want to say it the way instead of most people are calling it, Joker 2. So we'll keep it shorthand. Basically, the sequel to the billion-dollar Oscar-winning hit, Joker 2, basically has all the pieces of coming back, which is Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix and a lot of the same producers, the same studio. But the question is, did it lead to a similar result, better or worse? That's the kind of thing we'll be discussing on today's podcast. So let's get right into it. And maybe I'll be giving my review first and get right into it. So for me, Joker 2, I sort of give context that Joker 1 was pretty high on my list for my favorite movies of 2019. Actually, it was a big year for cinema debate in general. We were at the Joker Gala, and it was a fun time. And it was just, I remember the hype around that movie was pretty big. Not just hype for the fans, but controversial hype for not hype, but rather controversy around the violence of the movie. And I think that created kind of a big wildstorm that ended up helping that movie make $1 billion. So the big question was when they announced this movie, we've talked about it kind of ad nauseum over the last few podcasts, but not over last year rather, and that was this movie even needed? And we kept coming back to it, that why are they making this outside of the very obvious cash grab? And we kind of came to the conclusion that, you know what, if they're going to make a movie and Joaquin Phoenix signed on, they might be cooking. And I think over the course of trailers, I think trailer number 1 was pretty good. Trailer number 2, we came back on the podcast and said, not so good. And now I watch the movie. And now when I'm watching the movie, I come back and I'm thinking this movie's kind of like a 3-star movie, very middle of the road, middle of the pack. And my reasons for why it's middle of the pack really start with the script. So for me, Joker 2 cannot escape the shadow of his predecessor. It is constantly in the shadow of something else, and between the meta commentary, which there was tons of it, it almost felt like the movie is preaching to the fans and the haters of the first movie. And now that the movie's officially out, by the time it's coming out, we can talk some spoilers. So spoiler alert, but basically every time they talked about the Joker TV movie, it very much was like, hey, did you see that terrible movie? Was it good? Was it bad? And that kind of meta commentary, for some reason, for me, it was not working. Maybe because it was a huge departure from what the first film was trying to do from a script perspective. But here, I was not in a mood for a meta commentary about the first Joker movie. And that became the consistent flaw that's throughout the entire movie. The whole movie is just a courtroom drama about the first movie. Every character that comes back is just about the first movie. Everything's in context of the first movie. The only thing that's new in this movie is Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, or just Lee as they called her in this movie, and that's the only thing that's new. But even then, unless they cut some things out, it just was this very paper thin commentary about what happens when people glorify serial killers, why people were sending letters to Jeffrey Dahmer, why people were into any kind of these stories you see where there's infatuation with these horrible people. This is kind of the same thing, and it didn't really change from there. This version of Harley Quinn is not, again, spoiler alert, this version of Harley Quinn is not a doctor or anything. She's just a rich kid living in the Upper West Side of essentially New York, which is what this Gotham City is. And that's kind of what we're looking at now with this film. And when I look back at it, it's been a couple of days since we've seen it, but I look back and I think, what is this movie saying? And if it's not saying anything, why did you make it? And I don't want to, I know it's kind of anti-art to say why are you making something, but I almost feel like in this case, I don't see the ends don't justify the means. And I don't mind there being a very different movie. I just wish it was more, it just wasn't what it ended up being. That leads to my final point before I pass the baton over, and that's the musical element, because we've discussed that also ad nauseum on the podcast over multiple episodes, and we basically discussed that, hey, is this musical thing gonna work? And now that I've seen it, I'm sad to say it didn't work, at least not for me. So I don't know. I mean, it hasn't been aging that well the last few days, but maybe it'll sit better when we do the end of the year ranking. But Zion, you probably, I would say, the resident Joaquin Phoenix fan of the group. You have an extensive history of watching his films, and you know his filmography pretty well. Do you think this kind of is in that echelon at all? Or what do you think of the movie?
I definitely don't think it's in the echelon of his usual performances. That being said, I do feel like his screen presence, just like the first film, was kind of what gravitates you towards like the engagement of the film, which is unfortunate because you think that, okay, Lady Gaga as the co-star, her singing, her performances, her singing was fine, but she didn't have that screen presence. I don't know if it was just the writing of her character or just the way they handled her placement in the narrative. But I didn't really feel anything off her performance. It didn't feel standoutish in any way. It felt like kind of under the radar actually. So it was disappointing on that front. But I think Joaquin as a character, I still got that feeling. Okay, I'm interested in what he is doing on screen, what his thought process is, and I think that's more attributed to Joaquin as an actor than the actual writing of this movie. But um, I did come out of thinking that yeah, he shouldn't have broke his no sequel rule for this, because it honestly
My bad. That was a that
it
was a
did a
mistake.
disservice. It did a disservice to what the first movie did, which was a very perfect kind of full circle descension to the madness story, where through his madness he kind of found his own agency, he kind of found his own identity by the end of the movie with the Joker persona. And this, for better or worse, I don't know if that was part of kind of like the commentary that Todd Phillips wanted to tell, but they kind of took that all away from him, and that kind of power that he had as this Joker persona, they completely tore it down and said, "Yeah, it's nothing." And then even the whole monologue where, as Arthur Fleck, he admitted that, "Yeah, that's not really him." It's like, yes, you're going against everything the narrative and the journey of the first movie was, and it definitely hindered the whole thing for me, in my opinion, because in a vacuum, the first movie was just a perfect narrative, and this one, I don't, like you said, it's anti-art to say it shouldn't have existed, but you wonder what their thought process was of like the thesis that they were trying to tell through this film, because it seemed like the whole purpose was, let's just shit on what we did in the first movie and have it so detached and so different that people are honestly left with a sour taste. And I feel like a lot of the hatred it's getting is partly because of that, partly because of what they had and what they did. Of course, that was like capturing lightning in a bottle. You can't recreate that. So though the musical didn't work for me, I did appreciate them trying something new. But the narrative still has to be the backbone of the film, and it just did not carry its weight. Unfortunately, I think that the direction they took with the characters, the direction they took with the story, it was just a disservice to everything the first film laid out. And I was always on the fence about it, but after coming out of this film, yeah, I'm 100% sure that this movie did not need to exist, honestly. And I feel like more and more I see it, I feel like it was just, they're all convinced to come back because of just the financial success of the first one. That was just absolutely crazy with $1 billion. Nobody could have expected it, especially the controversy of what was going on at the time. So that was the reason it got greenlit, in my opinion, and I feel like you can see in what actually we ended up with.
I think Samir, you were never as high as Zion and I were on the first film, anyways. So coming into the sequel, I mean, where have you stood on it?
I mean, I enjoyed the first one. I don't think it was a perfect movie. And for this second one, for me, it's less about it not needing to exist, and it's more about why does it exist? And like you guys both said, it basically exists just to be a response to the reaction of the first film, and I feel like that's where they lost themselves in the narrative. And then they tried to focus a lot on the mental illness aspect of it, but by the end, it seemed like they really had nothing to say. It seemed like they had no idea which direction to take the character in. And I think as far as the musical aspect of it goes, I think that was like the most interesting part for me. I think that was the most appealing part as a sequel, that they would take it in this direction. It was like a pretty daring direction to take it in, but if it also felt like they were sort of afraid to go all in on the musical aspect of it. So some of the songs I liked, but a lot of the times it just kind of took you out of it because of how they were trying to tiptoe around that and trying to juggle it between that and making it a courtroom drama. And the courtroom drama narrative aspect of it, I think that was the worst. That was the worst decision they could have made creatively, because the story really doesn't fit the courtroom drama narrative structure. I think the thing that makes courtroom dramas interesting and engaging, I think this really doesn't have the pieces for that. And it's just evident that by the end of the direction they went in, the way they ended off the courtroom drama part, I think it was like supposed to be a big shocking moment, but that didn't last very long and ended up just going nowhere. I think the performances are still really good. Joaquin Phoenix is great, just like the first one, and I think Lady Gaga is also really good. Except she had like very little to work with in this film, but what she did with what she had, I think she was really good with it. I think they could have done something with this. You know, it didn't need to be this. I feel like the pieces were there. They could have done something. I like the musical aspect if they really focused on that more and made it a different type of narrative, then I think it could have worked. But I don't know why they want to respond to the first. I mean, the first one was like a cultural phenomenon, kind of the way it was impacting the world, like the violence around it and whatever. I feel like it was unnecessary to just respond to that with this. So yeah.
It's interesting because I almost was giving this movie too much credit in the beginning, and I was watching and I was like, okay, like I actually liked that beginning Looney Tunes opening. I was like, pretty cool. Like I like how it started, and then I was starting to be like, are they gonna play on the psychosis of Arthur Fleck more? Where last movie he was making people up, he was just like it was really was like I would say the commentary in the first movie about mental health was much stronger than this movie, and you really did pity the man while his actions were crazy, and but you almost pitied him in the end. Like, oh, I kind of feel bad for this guy. Like, he really did get a bad rap in the short end of the stick, and he's in a society that's really not working out for him. Whereas this movie, it's like I don't really feel bad for him anymore. I mean, yeah, he has some pathetic scenes, but you're almost like I've seen this shtick already, and I wanted something a little more interesting. Like, I kind of hope that they played on Harley Quinn almost like a villain, and maybe they were trying to do it, but it was just so weak. Like I wish they'd have played her as the villain of the movie, where she's trying to pull Joker out and want him to come out and be crazy, and she wants the violence to happen. And it's almost like Arthur Fleck is trying to find his humanity, while Harley Quinn is pulling out the Joker, which they almost were doing, but they did it so poorly and it resolved so poorly that I was just like, "What's happening?" And it all kind of encompasses one scene for me. And maybe there's multiple shot scenes, but there were a lot of different images and trailer shots. But the scene where he goes back to the Bronx and he sees Harley Quinn on the stairs, the iconic stairs, and I feel like there was two versions of that scene, but just the way it ended, that he just the second he got put into the friend zone or whatever, by Harley Quinn, he decided that I'm just gonna off screen, I'm gonna let the cops take me away, and just goes back to where we were, and we're back in the jail cell again, and the movie ends very quickly shortly thereafter. So for me, that was just like, I don't know, I expected more, honestly, and then the more you think about it, the more upset I get. I'm like, I expected more, because usually if you have the same director, the same main actor, and you have an Oscar in your head from a best acting perspective, and you even had best score, and the score was pretty good, but I for this movie too, but I was just like, you could have went all out. It's almost like they didn't. There are rumors out there. I don't want to put anything like stock more than it needs to be, but there are rumors that a lot of the movie was taken out, edited last second. I don't know if it's a DC Studios thing or whatever the case might be, but I heard some things changed. Don't know what it is, but things are out there. But let's see. I do want to talk now in full spoiler territory. I want to go over one more time. I want to talk about the final sequence of Joker 2, which is the finale, the conclusion of the character, that death scene. So, Zan, I'm going to go to you first now. What did you think about that? Is that a good way to end this duology? Because Todd Phillips has confirmed that's it. That's all, folks. No more movies coming out of this little pocket of DC Universe. There's no more Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. That was it. So, is this satisfying to you? Like, I had a good ending. We're good. We had a good duology. Like, do these two movies fit together as a great DC duology?
Honestly, the ending was just the nail in the coffin of terrible decisions, and kind of just throwing in the face of anybody who kind of enjoyed the first movie and liked where it ended and kind of the direction it was going. This was kind of like, all right, here's a slap in the face to everybody who hated the movie, and a slap in the face to everybody who liked the movie, So it's like nobody wins with that ending. And I think that it was a very on-the-nose way of saying, that's it, it's done, don't ask for more, don't expect more. And honestly, it's just the way it was done so fast and so abrupt. I get there's like shock value thing they're probably going for, but honestly, when it happened and the credits started rolling, I'm like, that's the most stupidest ending I could have thought of. It's like you could have gone so many directions, but this was like the last second they probably thought, all right, let's just throw it in, or maybe they thought the whole time that we'll kill him off somehow in this movie. But I think just the way it was done and the whole the real Joker is the guy who killed him. It was just so ham-fisted almost. It was like you expect just to eat that up, but I feel like that expectation from them is what makes it even more garbage. Like, we're not that stupid as an audience. Just be like, oh, now it's so good. It's the real Joker, unknown inmate who killed Arthur Fleck and then is carving his own face. I'm like, they're dangling like the carrot in front of the rabbit. It's like, but we're not going to bite. It's like, there's not, whatever they thought in their head, the execution did not work. It was abrupt. It was out of place. I feel like it was a product of the whole movie, honestly, because it felt like they didn't really know what direction, like some were saying, they didn't know what direction they were kind of going with a lot of the things that were in the movie. So this is just another strange decision where it was like they probably had a couple of different avenues and then just mashed it all together, and then this is what they end up with.
Yeah.
I wasn't really for it.
I'm in a similar boat. I also thought it was kind of strange. Honestly, when I thought about it recently, I was like, you know what? It reminds me of the first movie's ending and how much better it was. And I almost feel like that movie ended in a much better place. Like, he's sitting there with his cigarette and he's like, you wouldn't get it. And then you see That's Life playing and he's running around Arkham Asylum and causing havoc and mischief, and you don't know what's real, what's not. And then there's always this, like, if you're a DC fan, there's always he's in Arkham now. Everything is set up for when Bruce Wayne goes up. He's going to have his adventures with Batman in the future. And you can kind of like do your headcanon. Here, you get a definitive thud that he just tells the audience, and through the courtroom drama, really telling us, the audience watching, that, hey, I'm not Joker, I'm just Arthur Fleck. And then the real Joker, in full Heath Ledger fashion, just goes and takes care of business. And I'm just like, okay. And honestly, if I was gonna pick a new young Joker, there was another actor in this movie that I thought looked like Joker. Like, I was like, the other kid, I was like, oh, he could be Joker. Like, I'll take it, like. But instead of the other guy, I was like, oh, he could be the other guy too. But Samir, what did you make of that ending?
At first, I was kind of conflicted on it, but I feel like because of how bold it was such a bold direction to go in, I kind of liked it, just because of, it was like, it's like made for nobody, this ending. Like, not the people that enjoyed it, not the people that hated the first one, like Zion said, which is kind of fun. I feel like it's also kind of fitting because it's more about how, like, the Joker is kind of more symbolic in this. I mean, this film, it's barely even a DC like Joker movie. Like, nothing about it is that Joker, other than the fact that his serial killer persona is called the Joker. Like, that's what makes it DC, and that there's Gotham references to it. But I feel like that Joker, the symbol of it is it's not tied to Arthur. Like, by the end, he's just Arthur. He's not even the Joker anymore. So he kills. So Arthur dies, and the Joker lives on like that. I feel like it was kind of fitting, and kind of a middle finger to everyone. So I thought it was okay. That was all right.
Yeah,
it was the most shocking part.
I do like the way you described it. To be honest, I was interested to see, like, Arthur dies, but Joker, that's forever now. Like, that's his staying power, which is interesting because the whole arc of the first two movies are like, no one remembers me, no one sees me, but now the Joker legacy lives on. I get it. Just, I wish that was conveyed a little tighter, a little better of a script, or rather better screenplay, even, like, just let that translate. It's interesting. I mean, think about, like, how that works out. In terms of next steps, I mean, they're saying this is done now, so I don't think any more is happening. I guess all those dreams that people had back in 2019, they're like, oh, he's gonna be Robert Pattinson's Joker. I think that's all out the window, but I don't know. But
I mean, how can you Robert Pattinson's Joker when you already have the other guy?
No, that was before. Remember, 2019. This was 2 years
before
the Batman came out. So we didn't know. People were just putting in their head canon.
Did you notice the thing in the movie where it's like some references to Gotham City, but then any courtroom scene was like, oh, the state of New York versus Joker? I didn't get that.
Yeah, because
why did they say Gotham?
Gotham is New York City in New York State in this universe.
So Gotham is an area in New York City.
No, Gotham is New York City. This
so
is
why
state
they
of
call it
New
New
York
York
City. No, they didn't.
Sometimes they called it Gotham.
No, they said state of New York.
Like news reports said Gotham, but then the courtroom said New York.
Gotham City in New York State.
Yeah, Gotham City is in the state of New York.
Oh, got it. Yeah. It's the New York City of New York State.
It's the New York City. Yeah, so it is where New York City is, because there's an Upper West Side. They're using all New York things, they're talking about New York. The cabs are New York. They didn't really try that hard to make it Gotham. It was just New York.
That's true. Yeah.
Those stairs are literally in the Bronx.
I thought in all DC lore, like, Gotham is in this. I thought Gotham was just in the state of New York, like always. Like, Gotham is a city in New York.
Gotham is either multiple states in New Jersey or it's Chicago. Like, there's two ways to see it. Metropolis is New York. So that's kind of how that works. I don't know. But final scores, let's see where we stand on it. I mean, let's just say it's always ever changing. We always give scores, but they always change week to week, month to month, year to year. But where are we standing right now on Joker 2? I'll go first. I'm thinking 3 stars for me. I came out of the movie a little more up. I gave it 3.5, but after sitting on it for a couple of days, I brought it down to a 3. 3 just means serviceable. That 3 is a credit to great acting across the board and a strong score. Though I will say the score was strongest when it was using motifs from the first movie, but still a good score. But then the points go down for a poor script and a jumbled narrative. So I think those are my negatives. Those are my positives. I just factor that out to a 3. Zion, what about you?
I ended up coming out this movie much higher score, even though I have a lot of negative to say about it. I ended up giving it a 4, but I pushed it down to 3.5 now, which is higher than I think both of you guys. I feel like the positives are, like you said, the performances, especially Joaquin. I feel like he handled his character as well as he did in the first one. It was just the narrative didn't serve the character as well as the first one. That was the only difference. But I feel like if the writing was there, if other pieces were there, like Samir said, I agree that the pieces were there. They just didn't fit in together properly, and it ended up being kind of a mess of what it was. But I think even still, when you look at this film as like just a standalone movie, if you even strip away Arthur Fleck and the characters and the connections, even though I get the courtroom scenes and all that, and just as a singular movie of two crazy people and they think they're singing and then one gets killed at the end and that's the movie. If it had nothing to do with Joker 1, I would have been like, this is an interesting movie. It's something different. So for that, I landed on 3.5 because it was just innovative in that sense, but hindered by what it followed from.
What about you?
I ended up giving it a 2.5. I mean, I walked up giving it a 3, but I moved it down to 2.5. I don't think the positives outweigh the negatives, and I do think it's interesting, like the way Zion said, but because it's so tied to the first one, I just can't even separate it at all from what it's trying to be a response to. So I end up with 2.5.
There you go. You got a good little spectrum there: 2.5, 3, and 3.5. So there you go. I think people. It's not going to make $1 billion like last year, but I do think people are watching it to see what this movie is all about. And hopefully, this review helps you with either wanting to see it, or if you've already seen it, hopefully you enjoy the debate we've had and can jump in with your thoughts as well in the comments. From myself, from Zion, and from Samir, we're the Faruqi Bros, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.